The vision is to connect all things cryptocurrency, commercial real estate, traditional investing, using what's called the Deferred Sales Trust. This is how you can hold off paying capital gains tax on the sale of your Bitcoin profits or other cryptocurrency.
You know, at the end of the day, we just try to make things easy and simple for people. We take the complexity of taxes, complexity of investments, and we try to work with other professionals in a very high level, very professional, collaborative way. We don't need to be arguing or stepping on toes or trying to prove that one method is better than another method. Let's look at everything. Let's put it all out there and let's make sure that all the clients' advisors are all on the same page.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out and to see how you guys develop your mechanical processes to deal with people that are across different exchanges that don't just have Kraken. They're going to be multiple exchanges, and probably something you guys want to address early and be early in that space as well, so you're prepared for people that have that issue.
Just in case, we set up a personal business of mine, a crypto business of mine. And within that business, I could hold all those wallets, right?
It says, for generations, people believed it was impossible to run the mile in under 4 minutes. They believed the human body wasn't capable of going that fast and that it would collapse under the pressure. Some doctors and scientists said it wasn't just hard or dangerous, but physically impossible. No one could run a mile in under 4 minutes. The announcement was drowned out by the crowd when they realized it was under 4 minutes. Bannister had finished the race in 3 minutes, 59 seconds. He had done what so many people believed was impossible. He broke the 4-minute mile. It says after that record was broken, it was held up for only 46 days before it was broken by John Landy. Once people saw it was possible, it created belief in others that they could do it too. So what I love about this story is that for decades, maybe hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, no one believed that the 4-minute mile could be broken. And then it was broken, and then within 45 days, literally another handful of men broke it, and now 1,400 more people have broken it since 1954. So I believe that is where we're at with this cryptocurrency current marketplace. We closed the first one, $5 million of Bitcoin, Ethereum, a mixture mostly Ethereum. And now we're getting a wave of individuals who are finding us. You might be finding us right now.
I'll tell you, you made me a believer when we got the wire from our mutual client who made this work. And it was a real eye-opener to see that there are ways that people can use the regulatory framework, if properly structured, to invest 1031 exchange dollars in things that you would not think were like kind to what they exited from. So it was very impressive. I got to say, you are the first one I've seen pull this off, and I'm pretty what do you call it? Hesitant to believe in a lot of these kinds of things. So it's a major feat for me to say, wow, this actually really worked.
We've seen, these tax avoidance, tax minimization, offshore, all these different strategies undertaken to minimize or avoid taxes. And then I can tell you that, some of them are just not worth the trouble. And so I was skeptical. Admittedly, I was skeptical. I thought, oh yeah, here we go, another one of these, right? And then they say, no, it really is different, right? So look more closely. We looked more closely. We had, honestly, 2 years of conversations. 2 years. Now we were being due diligence at the same time that we were doing due diligence, but 2 years is a long time to be, sort of flirting with the idea of and getting to know the people and getting to really understand the transaction. And I still don't think I'm an expert. Not that it's that complicated, but its power is to a degree in its flexibility. And so it's sort of like every time I'm like, that's slightly different. That's a different setting, different context, different opportunity, different challenges.
Being honest and admittedly, I know nothing about Bitcoin or any of this, so this is all like very, very new to me, and I'm here to learn a lot of different aspects about the trust and DST, and it's interesting conversation that I might not be having right now with a lot of my clients, but I feel like in the future it will be. So I'm just trying to absorb it and listen, but if I look confused, that's why.
If you have any questions at all, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and you can schedule a one-on-one consultation with me or one of my team members, and we can go through this. Remember, our minimum is $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain, unless you have two properties, cryptocurrency worth 500 and something else worth 500 to combine together. But I hopefully you feel encouraged today and more confident about the Deferred Sales Trust. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being a part of this meetup here, and I'm excited to talk about the Deferred Sales Trust. It is my passion, I'm turning my video on, to try to equip you to help your clients escape feeling trapped by capital gains taxes. Or if you're listening to this for the first time as an individual who's selling cryptocurrency, a business, real estate, to know, like, and trust the Deferred Sales Trust, have confidence in what it can do for you when selling highly appreciated assets. And so as you have questions along the way, please do go and type them in the chat. And we will do our best to answer those along the way, as well as at the very end of the presentation. And as well, if you're wanting to start right now and get going on your Deferred Sales Trust for yourself or your clients, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, download the free ebook. Our minimum consultation qualification is $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain. So if you have that and you have a live deal that's set to close here in the near future, you can go ahead and schedule that with myself, one of my team members. And so this title of this presentation is The Number One Secret to Overcoming the Biggest Objection to a Deferred Sales Trust, How It Helped Steve to Finally Achieve Relief from Retirement when I sold his $1.7 million multifamily building and helped him defer $355,000 or $350,000 while saving his 1031 exchange. And so I am Brett Swarts, founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. As a legal disclaimer, this message is for educational purposes only. It's solely intended to provide an overview of how the Deferred Sales Trust works and can be implemented. My company nor I provide legal, tax, or professional service advice. Each transaction is very unique, and we encourage each person on here who's listening to this to seek independent legal and tax professional advice. So here are some major facts that are going on. This is really interesting. According to the American Bankers Association, there's about $17 to $20 trillion that will pass from one generation to the next in the next 18 years. And this is known as the largest wealth transfer in the history of the planet. In fact, that same study found there's about 77 million baby boomers in the U.S. alone. About every day, about 10,000 of them are turning 65. You couple that with 1031 timelines that do not work for cryptocurrency, primary homes, business sales, but they do work for investment real estate. But they're very restrictive. 45 days to identify, 180 days to close. It can be a big challenge. As well, the Deferred Sales Trust works for public or private stock. And again, of course, cryptocurrency primary homes are businesses, which is why we consider the Deferred Sales Trust Netflix versus the Blockbuster way of doing things, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But right now, you and or your clients are reluctant to sell because of the capital gains tax, and it's somewhere between 30 and 50% of the gain. So that's the big problem we're going to try to solve for. I want you to imagine you got a Rubik's Cube in your hand right now, and there's all these little colors from all the different angles on it. And until you help your clients and or yourself line up this Rubik's Cube with most of the colors all evenly congruent on each side, are you actually going to be able to sell your property, sell your asset, or list that property for somebody to win business? Because I like to say that every single day, high net worth individuals, primary homeowners, cryptocurrency owners, they pay hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars of capital gains tax when they don't have to, and they feel trapped. And until you solve the problem, do they actually want to transact? Okay, so we're in the business of not selling real estate or in the business of providing tax deferral strategies. We're in the business of solving problems. And when you can do that in an elegant way like the Deferred Sales Trust allows you to do, it changes everything. Okay, so a few things. It's okay to dream of helping your clients defer millions in tax and becoming the number one in your profession. It's also more important to unlock new deals with new value proposition. And again, be in the business of solving your clients' problems. The internet and technology is challenging the value proposition of every single real estate professional, financial advisor, business broker, you name it. It's challenging it with technology and automation. And so you got to bring something that is a little more complex, is a little more challenging, such as the Deferred Sales Trust. And when you do, guess what? You solve problems, you unlock value, you win business. So who is this presentation for? It's for any business professional, CPA, commercial real estate broker, luxury home broker, financial advisor. who has a client who have a highly appreciated asset that they're selling or trying to save a failed 1031 exchange that has subject to capital gains tax of at least $1 million net of all debt or already closing costs, and at least $1 million of gain, right? So I bought a cryptocurrency for $1 and it's worth $1.1 million. That's a perfect fit, right? I bought a commercial real estate property for $100,000. It's worth 1.1 million. That's a perfect fit. Anything smaller than that is too small unless you have two assets that are 500 each that you can combine together in a short period of time to qualify. So what is a deferred sales trust? Well, it's just an installment sale. It's known as IRC 453, the tax code. It's known as a seller carryback. Why do you need one? Well, you might want to defer some tax. You may not want to sell and pay a bunch of tax, but you also might want some flexibility for how and where the funds can be invested. And so it's just like kind of like an IRA. It's kind of like a 401k. It's kind of like a 1031 exchange in that it's tax deferral, and you can receive payments slowly over time from the trust and slowly pay tax. And so it came around in the 1920s, and it's very well known in the real estate world. A little less known in other worlds, but it works for, again, all asset types. And so I want to compare and contrast the 1031 exchange with people might be familiar with. And so in the chat, if you can put, yes, I'm familiar with the 1031 exchange, as well as let me know where you're from so I can kind of get a feel for that and maybe what your specialty is. That'll help me along this presentation. But I want you to think of the 1031 like Blockbuster. And why is the 1031 like Blockbuster? Well, you ever remember going on a Friday night and having to get that movie, and you show up, and if you got to park, you got to go in, you got to find the movie, you got to rent the movie, but you got to return it within 3 days, right? And if you have to return it, you get a penalty. But the movie may not even be there when you get there, or maybe the wrong movie, the wrong. I remember the VCH, back in the day was just tapes, right? Before even the DVDs came out. It was the old way of doing things. And then someone around came Netflix all of a sudden, and they said, we're going to change everything. And it took a while, but now there's really no Blockbusters and only Netflix, and that there's no return policy, right? You just ongoing fees, right? But it's never checked out. You never have to drive anywhere. It's all really seamless, and that's like the deferred sales trust in that there's no 1031 timelines. You can sell high and buy low. In fact, the best story I know of this is a gentleman who sold some real estate in the peak of the market in 2006 before the crash. Sold high, and then he was able to buy real estate later on at a lower price, all tax deferred, which is really incredible thought, right? That you no longer have to chase an overpriced property in a very highly appreciated market, and or you're just older, you're looking to retire from the toilet to trash a liability, and you don't want to have to deal with a lot of the challenging laws that are in place for owning real estate. And so as a quick background, by the way, I'm a commercial real estate broker. I'm with eXp Commercial. I'm a multifamily specialist in Sacramento, California. I grew up in the Bay Area with my dad building custom homes, my mom owning rentals all my life. So I've lived, breathed, and loved commercial real estate and cash flow and depreciation and 1031 exchanges when it makes sense for my clients. And I worked and I got trained by one of the best companies in all of commercial real estate brokerage, Marcus Millichap. And I also invest and have done countless 1031 exchanges, Delaware Statutory Trust, Deferred Sales Trust. And I've been featured in a bunch of media. And one of my favorite ones is a group called the Sharkpreneur Podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Green. And if you recognize Kevin, he's from Shark Tank. And he's taking a look at this too. Potentially for bringing it in for some of his stuff. But it wasn't always that way. I wasn't always Leonardo DiCaprio closing deals, and cold calling people. In fact, I was one of the guys in the back scratching my head. It was like 2006. I was brand new in the business, and my cousin and other people were making a lot of money. And I was struggling. It was tough. I was scared on the phones. I didn't know anything about deferred sales trust and really anything much about a 1031 exchange. I just knew I loved real estate, and I was very competitive. I played basketball in college. And I played football growing up, and I just wanted to help people in real estate. And just when I started to get some momentum and get some real traction in the business, the 2008 crash hit like a ton of bricks. I don't know if anyone remembers that. All of a sudden, you thought things are going pretty good, but now all of a sudden you go to like making a little bit of money to like zero. I mean, I'm literally like, that's where I went. I went to like zero. And as a commercial real estate broker, you have commission and you have expenses, but you don't have a salary or you have no benefits. And so it was literally on my shoulders, and I found myself in a very scary time. In fact, my wife and I both did. You see, I'm newly married, baby daughter at home, and all of a sudden there's this big weight on my shoulders of either A, go get a real job, W-2 job in that sense, and walk away from my dream of commercial real estate, or B, figure out a way to keep this dream alive. And growing up, my parents, when they were married, they had a lot of wealth. And then they got divorced. My dad kept all the wealth, let's just say, and my mom didn't have as much. And so I lived with my mom most of the time. And so I always knew I wanted to have a lot of financial margin in my life. And I just remember all of these, like all the fear and all the pressure and all the stress starting to bubble up on one day, going, something's got to change. Like, I don't want to have the fear of having economic and budgets be a problem for my marriage. And what am I going to do? And that's where I was willing to take the step that I think every good entrepreneur or real estate wannabe does. You get a side hustle by nights and weekends. And so I worked for a company called Cheesecake Factory. And so by day, I'd make cold calls trying to learn and grow in the business. And then by night, I'd be selling cheesecake. And I did that for 2 years. And during this journey, though, I wasn't just struggling myself and my family, but also my clients were too. You see, some had overpaid via the 1031, had too much debt, not enough liquidity, and not enough diversification. And they were losing half to all of their wealth and battling with the banks. Some of them lost everything. Some of them had to crawl out the next 5 years. And the one thing we can identify as we studied this was the 1031 exchange. Again, we loved it as a broker because we got paid big, but we didn't love it for our clients who had to overpay, and they didn't love it either. In fact, you'd ask them and they'd loathe having to buy some of these properties. But if it wasn't because of the tax of 30 to 50%, they wouldn't have bought it, but they did now. And so now they were stuck. And so I was in both worlds. And then that's when my business partner came in and talked to me about this deferred sales trust. He talked to me about Netflix, and he said, "Hey guys, your folks have been in Blockbuster. There's a thing called Netflix." And like most people, he said, "This is too good to be true. Oh, I haven't heard of it. I don't know." But hey, I had to win. I had a dream, and I wanted to press through, and I thought it could work. It seemed like it could work. So I started to slowly roll it out, talk about it, get educated, study it, try it, talk about it, hours and hours of webinars, and studying with a tax attorney and my business partner who's a financial advisor, and going through this on case after case after case. And all of a sudden, as I talked about it more, my business started to grow. I started to get some traction. I started to win more listings, started to do more deals, and I was able to retire from the Cheesecake Factory. And fast forward, my wife and I have 5 kids, and we live in Sacramento, California. And now I just train and coach people on how to do this, individual clients as well as business professionals, on how to use the Deferred Sales Trust to also help them grow their business. It's my passion. I absolutely love it. It's really fun. So after 10 years, I discovered the hard way. So how many of you want to learn the easy way? And I appreciate everyone jumping in. We have Joya. We have Roger, Williamsburg, Virginia. Yes, he knows about the 1031. We got Jeannie. She's familiar with the 1031, West LA. We got Gloria from Wisconsin, familiar with the 1031 exchange. Virginia from West LA is specializing in multifamily in Los Angeles. Gloria's residential sales, and looks like there might be a referral coming our way as well. So, by the way, if you've been struggling, so here we go. If you've been struggling, this is probably why. I talked about the perfect storm of all the baby boomers retiring, but also it's not your fault. Your CPA doesn't know about this, right? Or if they did, they would have told you. And also, guess what? Here's one of the secrets that a lot of 1031 exchange companies don't want you to know about. They don't want you to know about the Deferred Sales Trust. A lot of them don't. In fact, a lot of them will come straight out and just say, "Oh, we don't think it's legal," or "We don't think it's going to work." And in fact, for 25 years, thousands of closes, billions under management, it keeps working. But some of them don't want you to know about. Now, we work with QI companies who do want you to know about, want to give you that option, and we want to make sure that you're connected with them so your clients are never left out in the cold with their 45-day and their 180 timeline going away, right? But this is the hard way, right? The 1031. This is what the Blockbuster. This is what clients have been forced to do for the past 10 years. They got to hire a broker and I know most of you are brokers and realtors on here, and I get that, so am I, 5 to 6% commission. They got to sell a property, another 0.5% closing cost, hire attorneys to review documents, hire a 1031 qualified intermediary, hire an attorney to draft new LLCs, identify 3 properties within 45 days and close within 180, apply and obtain a new loan. Hey, rates are really low, but they're not necessarily easy to get loans these days. Buy property. Hopefully they didn't overpay for the property. Take on more debt when they didn't want to. They're feeling more pressure now. Their upfront costs can be hundreds of thousands of dollars per deal. And then the time and energy and stress of their life, it could be 6 months, right? In fact, we meet with owners today and they're like, wow, I've been waiting for you. I'm not selling until you provided your solution. Now that you provide your solution, I don't never want to do a 1031 ever again. You give me the Netflix. I will sell right now. I have 2 listings right now, one in LA, one in Sacramento, both apartment complexes, because of this exact feature, which I'm going to tell you all about. Also, it's harder and harder to own properties. New rent control laws, right? New eviction laws. It's endless amount of time and energy and stress. And most of my clients, they want to be done, at least for right now, until prices make sense, right? So there's also a thing called the Delaware Statutory Trust, which I don't want you to get confused with the Deferred Sales Trust. They're both known as DSTs, but the Delaware Statutory Trust is just another form of what's called Blockbuster exit planning, okay? In fact, it's kind of like the local video store. You know, it's not quite even Blockbuster. It's like the local, like, what was the one? We had Hollywood Video was one of them, right? It's kind of like that one. First of all, it is just a 1031 exchange, except it's via a structure called a Delaware Statutory Trust, where a big corporation buys a couple properties typically, and then you can 1031 your small interest into this entity that owns these properties. Okay. Biggest challenge with those is the funds are not liquid, and they're typically tied up for 7 to 10 years, and you are not diversified. You have no control. Compared to the Deferred Sales Trust, you can have liquid investments or illiquid investments. You can be diversified into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, insurance, real estate, okay, business ventures, okay. Fees are also very high as 14% to multiple parties. Now, they're baked into the deal, so they're not going to say 14%, but we found that if you ask them for every dollar I put in, how much is actually hitting the real estate? And the general answer is 85 cents to 86 cents is the actual amount hitting the real estate. These are fancy, beautiful properties, great operators, okay, but they're typically not value add, which to me is the deadly sin of the DST, in that we want to buy low, add value, increase it. We don't want to buy turnkey, perfect property. So a lot of these are not value add, which is not great. And you can look up the 7 deadly sins of a Delaware Statutory Trust. Some of the positives, though, they are non-recourse loans, okay? So typically you're not having to have the debt in your name, okay? You do need to be an accredited investor, so you got to make sure you have that accreditation. Again, they're turnkey, beautiful Class A properties, locations, and tenants, and they're first-class operators. I mean, these are some of the smartest, most brilliant real estate owners and operators in the nation. So, and I've helped clients close Delaware Statutory Trust, and we still do some Delaware Statutory Trust, which has to do with solving mortgage over basis issues, which is a whole nother topic. But there's some times where we do a partial Deferred Sales Trust and a partial Delaware and a partial 1031, a little bit of all three. Okay, we're capital gains tax solutions, plural. It's not just solution. We're not Deferred Sales Trust solution, right? These things do have their role, and you just want to know the differences between the two and work with somebody who's actually closed all three, not just focuses on one and only has that experience. But I do call it sleepy real estate capital. Remember, 1031 only works for investment real estate. So if you're selling cryptocurrency or a business or a primary home, this doesn't even work for you anyways. But if you're selling investment real estate, it's pretty sleepy, meaning you're going to get about 5 to 6%, but you have no toilets, no trash, no liabilities. I mean, the operator's dealing with all of that. So it's peaceful mailbox money. So there is a place for Delaware. I just don't like selling high and having my clients pay at the highest price, right now. I just don't think it's great. So I'm going to walk you through how to deliver a transformational exit plan in the next 30 minutes. It won't take that long. But I want to tell you a couple deal stories to give you some confidence in what we're doing. So remember Steve, this is my client. And Steve, he grew up in Napa, California, and his parents own about $30 million of multifamily property. And when they weren't just sipping wine and going to the properties to collect rent, they were talking about 1031 exchanges. In fact, he learned about it at a young age. And so he's selling his property. I mean, he hires me to list and sell it. We get multiple offers. We get a record price, about $270,000 a unit. And he wants to pay off some debt, and he's looking at a 1031. We think we found a 1031. Everything looks to be going okay. But then Murphy's Law kicks in, and the partner has to bail on him. It was a partner. John and Steve are partners. The family emergency happened, and then John needed the cash and left Steve with nothing but a potential $350,000 in taxes. So we saved his failed 1031 exchange. And Steve, I call him Skeptical Steve, and it's a good thing because he's very smart and asks great questions. And he goes, I can tell you it wasn't easy. I had to really dig in. I had to somehow pivot and trust someone else. I'm a very skeptical person, and my wife is even more skeptical. And so they really put us through the ringer, but they are my clients. You can hear his entire story at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Here's another deal that closes. This is a primary luxury home. Primary home. Remember, 1031 doesn't qualify for one of the top realtors in all of Keller Williams in the Palo Alto area, Silicon Valley. For his own house, okay? Also, top-notch CPA that he hired to look at this thing for over a year and a half of due diligence. He did it for his own house. He's my client, okay? Here's another client. They sold a $5 million property in Colorado Springs, a multifamily property, and this was big for them. They had some estate challenges, and we helped them with their estate tax. And then we've done most recently, and it's actually our number one focus, is the Bitcoin and Ethereum sales. And this particular client, they bought Bitcoin and Ethereum for about $100,000 over a 7-year period of time, and it went to $13 million. And they never sold because of the tax until they met Capital Gains Tax Solutions, myself, and the Deferred Sales Trust. And $5 million of that they were able to transfer to the trust and defer all the tax. We've since gone on to do 2 more of these sales. Another one was for a Google. She used to work at Google. She did it for her Bitcoin. And another one was for the exact same client. He did it for additional $2.5 million. And we have about $190 million with the caseload right now for cryptocurrency owners who are kind of pending sales in the next 3 to 6 months. There's also another deal. This is a business sale out of Alabama for a client of mine. So he sold his business. Remember, it doesn't qualify for 1031, but does for the Netflix Deferred Sales Trust, deferred about $600,000 of tax. Here's a investment property on the beach near Santa Cruz for a $7.9 million sale. She was in her 70s, did not want a 1031, deferred about $2.6 million in tax. Here's a client of mine. He's worth about $40 million, and he just goes, Brett, I have so many properties. He's tired of it, and he deferred about $1.2 million of tax when he sold his $3.1 million multifamily property. Here's another client in Athens, Georgia, who sold a $7.6 million property, and we saved his failed 1031 exchange. The list goes on and on and on. Here's two apartment complex syndicators. They have thousands of units, and they've actually gone a third property now as well. These first 2 properties they sold for $36 million. They used the Deferred Sales Trust for. So it's really just one secret to overcome, right? This is the title of the presentation. One secret to overcoming the biggest objection to a Deferred Sales Trust. Wow, Brett, the DST sounds amazing, but I need my trusted advisor to say yes before I move forward. I don't understand how my CPA doesn't know about this. And I want to just tell you a few deal stories to instantly gain credibility and give you confidence right now, even if you have 0 DST experience or tax deferral experience, okay? And so here we go. So I want to meet David Young. You might have saw him in the beginning of this video in the little clip. Remember, he's talking about due diligence and 2 years. And well, David Young is so smart. He's much smarter than me. And he actually came and he worked for a company called PIMCO. I don't know how many people have heard of PIMCO before, but PIMCO is kind of like one of the largest money managers in the world. They manage money for some of the top wealth in the world. And David and his team got approached with the Deferred Sales Trust about 3.5 years ago. And you got to understand, guys that are at this level, he worked with a guy named Bill Gross. About 5 or 6 of these guys ran PIMCO for a number of years, and they all kind of retired. David got back together. They get approached by a lot of people who want them to pitch a lot of things. And David said, you know what? We usually say no to everything almost immediately because it just doesn't pass the sniff test. He goes, but the Deferred Sales Trust was a little different, so we started to look at it. But we didn't do 2-day due diligence or 2 weeks or 2 months. We did 2 years. I want you to think about that. Have you guys ever did due diligence for 2 years on something? Well, that's what David and his team did, and attorneys, and looked at it and talked with the banks and the clients and the tax law and on and on and on and on. And David and his team, after those 2 years, not only said that is the smartest person we've ever met, and that's the tax attorney who created it, but number two, we're all in. We want to be a part of the Deferred Sales Trust Asset Allocation Advisory Team, and that's who David Young is, and he's a part. You can hear his whole podcast at Capital Gains Tax Solutions. But there's only really one question to ask yourself right now. If it's good enough for David Young and his legal team after 2 years of due diligence, is it good enough for you and your client's legal team? That's it. And at this point, if it's not, right, and now of course you talk with David and talk with our legal team and everything else, then there's probably no way of convincing you if this thing is legit and real. And this is one of the smartest, again, most thoughtful, kind, and diligent persons I've met. And he's been in the industry for over 30 years, okay? Again, you can hear his whole story. We talk about overcoming false beliefs of the Deferred Sales Trust. So I want you guys right now to hopefully be feeling this is legal, it's legit, it works. Even my CPA doesn't know about it. I have the evidence to show this, okay? And this comes with the second story. And this guy's named Cal Garvin. And Cal, for 35 years, had a financial service business, and he was considered an expert. He worked for a group called LPL, and he thought he knew everything, but he learned something new. And he went from too good to be true to not sure if it's legal to 100% legal and all in. And see, his secret pocket, if you will, in his pocket, he was married to his wife, and his wife worked for the Secretary of the Treasury, and she was able to share her experience with tax and with different things, and they both did it. And so Cal is an amazing story, and that gives me a lot of confidence as well. So once you understand this stuff and understand these simple stories of people that are very smart, that have in the track record of thousands of closes, billions under management, over a dozen no change IRS audits, there's audit defense. It actually becomes real easy and really clear and very consistent. We don't go outside of the bounds of what's been set up by the tax attorneys. We just follow it to a T. So step one is to simply sit down with your client and help them map out a plan and bring them in to a call with me if they have $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain, and any of their other trusted advisors or CPAs or whatever, and we just map out a plan of what they're trying to solve for. What's the outcome? Or if you're listening to this and it's for yourself, why are you selling? What's your motivation? What do you want to do with your wealth? What do you want to do with your time and your energy? And we'll help you get a clear plan for that. Step two is just sell the asset. List and sell the property. List and sell the business. Or if it's cryptocurrency, we need to open up an exchange account and transfer it into the Deferred Sales Trust exchange account, which then leads to step three is you fund the trust. From there, the funds go to a bank and or TD Ameritrade to be able to invest into different assets, okay? And step four is just enjoy your wealth, to give more. As a kind of an overview, the Deferred Sales Trusts are set up in 10-year increments. What's happening is you are lending the funds to the trust in exchange for a promise to the trust to pay you back over time. So you're becoming the bank, right? So you say, okay, I know you owe me the $5 million trust, and so I'm going to put the $5 million into the trust in exchange for no dollars down, but to pay me back slowly over time. And as you take cash from the trust, you'll pay tax. As you dip into principal, you pay capital gains tax. You'll pay ordinary income tax on just the earnings that come out. And that's where most of our clients will have. They'll have these for every 10 years. They'll renew it for 10 years and keep passing it on to their kids or their heirs. You can always cash out whenever you want and just pay the tax as well. So how does this whole thing work? Glad you asked. Well, we've got Susie and John up here, and they want to sell, let's just say, $5 million worth of cryptocurrency. And they bought it for $1 million, okay? So they got about a $4 million gain. And on that $4 million, let's just say they would have paid about 30% in tax. That's about $1.2 million. So we want to solve for that $1.2 million, okay? Now, if they just sell directly to the exchange account, they're going to pay tax, right? Because they received all of the cash, all of the $5 million, they'll pay the tax. But instead of doing that, if they simply set up a trust, have a trust set up, and instead of selling it to a cash buyer immediately, they're going to transfer it to an exchange account. So here's the $5 million. Okay. And then from the exchange account, they're going to sell it in the open market for $5 million. And guess what? They're going to get a promissory note back to them. Promissory note. They became the lender for $5 million. They took a 0 down payment. So they carried back 100% financing. And this 5 million is going to be paid to them over time. Okay, typically over 10 years at 8%. 8% like that. Okay. And the trust bought it for 5 million, right? Took the position and sold it for 5 million. So the trust has what's called a zero gain. So it has no tax for the trust level. Okay. That's how it works. It's very, very simple. Assets to sell, transfer it to the trust in exchange for a promissory note. So there's really two transactions. The first one happened right here. The second one happened over here. Okay, this is the second transaction. This is the first. It's like a simultaneous close though. We're doing it like right at the same time. So I'm going to pause there. Any questions on this page?
Where does the 8% come from?
Great question. So the investments in which the 5 million is placed into, we can't guarantee it, but we're going to try to get 8%. The investments can be stocks, mutual funds, bonds, real estate, businesses. I have a client who's developing 70 multifamily units, ground up development. It's got to be investments. It can't be a primary home. It's got to be investments if we want to maintain the tax deferral. There's a financial advisor that creates an allocation of all the different investments. And then, Joya, you'd have to approve. If it was your trust, you have to approve it. Approve all the investments.
What are the costs associated then? You must have somebody you're paying, right? To do
Yeah, we'll
this?
get into that in a minute. What else? Anyone else have any questions on this page? All right. We're going to just keep moving forward here. All right. So we're going to erase all that. So what client used to have to do? Stay in a primary home, not sell business or cryptocurrency or stock, overpay for a 1031 property, more time, energy, toilets, trash, tenants, employees, and liability, become the lender for the single buyer, stay in debt, pay the tax. So it's a new way. It's a better way. So who here thinks the Deferred Sales Trust is transformational, is the Netflix to trading and selling highly appreciated assets? And this is really a simple plan. We're going to list and sell. We're going to defer the tax, fund the trust, invest anytime. So if this sounds like you and you want to help with oh, hello. You want to help your clients who are feeling trapped by capital gains tax and earn more listings, you can join our free mastermind. You can email me, brett@capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can also just go to our website, capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, and where you can go ahead and join our mastermind on Friday. Bring your clients in. We have a couple questions here, and I will answer, first of all, the fees first. I answer the fees, and then I'll answer the questions. So fees are pretty straightforward. I'll use $1 million example. Let's say the property sales price was $1 million. Okay. You're looking at a 1.5% one-time fee. Okay. Which is about $15,000 to the tax attorney. Okay. $15,000 to the tax attorney. One time. That covers lifetime audit defense. And then somewhere right around 1.85 to 2% on a recurring basis based upon the accounts under management. So let's say they own this thing free and clear, right? So they pay the 1.5%. That means there'd be about $985,000 left over. And on that, it would be about 2%, which is almost about $20,000 on a recurring basis. And there's a tax return fee, and there's an accounting fee. This is why we want to make sure that this deal is big enough. It has $1 million gain, right? Because you're going to pay $400,000. Let's say it's 40%. And we call that's a tax, right? Which is versus just paying the small fees along the way and earning interest on that. So let's go now to the other questions, which I'm going to stop share here and open up the rest of the questions. We have, where does the 8% come from? I told you, the investments. Okay, I will ask more. Gold, crypto, how does it work with the IRS? Meaning, do you have to liquidate the gold or crypto when you put it in the trust? The IRS is so undecided about crypto, would love to understand. So, no, you don't liquidate the gold or crypto. You transfer, we'll start with crypto because, depending on how you hold the gold, right? But you would transfer the crypto. So we set up a Kraken account, actually, and we had a client who had Bitcoin, and they transferred the BTC to the Kraken account, the trust Kraken account. Okay. And then from the trust Kraken account, the Bitcoin was sold to cash, and the cash goes into the Kraken account. Okay. And then the cash goes to a third-party bank account. So that's how that works, Joy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So basically you do liquidate. I mean, you're not, able to get the gains on it anymore. Like if the price of BTC goes up, you basically liquidate it into cash at that point. Correct? That's what you're saying when it goes to the bank.
So you don't liquidate it, you transfer it. Because if you liquidate it, it'd be taxable.
No, but I mean, you transfer and then you sell it. So that's what I meant. You do sell it into cash. You transfer
to the trust, and then the trust sells it, and the trust liquidates it. But yeah, you're right. You're basically taking your gains, and instead of having more gains, you are transferring over to the trust, and then you're diversifying all of those investments in exchange for the trust to pay you back over time. Okay? Anybody else?
Well, I'll ask another question. There must be some time limit, right? When you have to invest it by?
Nothing that's on the books.
Just before you have to go pay your taxes?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to sit there for too long and not make any interest because inflation's going to eat you up, right? Same reason why you don't want to keep money sitting in the bank. So ideally, we're investing it and making that 8% return ASAP, right? Ideally. But we had clients who were cautious about COVID-19 and everything last year, and they sat in the bank for months.
Any talks of other Bitcoin other than Ethereum that'll be coming into fruition, Brett?
Yeah, we have a big XRP, a big Omni NFT, a big Cardano, Solana, some of these bigger holdings for some clients. Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, I'm just going to ask another question then.
Sure.
I'm just curious, like XRP, it's finally going up. I mean, it was so low. It went up and then it went down. If somebody's doing a big trade like that, how do you make sure it doesn't affect the market if that market's not big enough, if you know what I mean? Because I don't know how like example, it's probably not in Coinbase, right? How do you, where are you using to sell it, I guess?
We're using Kraken. So.
Oh, right. You said that thing.
I don't know. Like, I'm not an expert in selling crypto and not causing the prices to drop. I'll leave that to my clients, but we just transfer it to defer the tax. But I'm looking forward to learning more about that. You got to be smart. You're right. Because certain coins don't have as much liquidity. They don't have as much, and it could affect the market. So that is, and here's maybe a better answer. When we did the Ethereum one, my client who did 5 million, he didn't do 5 million in one trade, right? He did 250. He started with $10 just to get the pipes all opened up. We watched the $10 go in. Okay, we got it. Then 250,000, and then 500, and then 750, and then a million, and until he hit 5 million over an hour, 1 hour, right? So he didn't seem like it was, so if you have really big holdings, we're going to be wise about selling out. So that's actually a really good question, Joy. Yeah, that's a good point.
Brett, I just wanted to ask you, this is Jenny in Los Angeles. Are there any upcoming tax changes that by the current administration that you see that's going to impact the DST, your DST?
Zero.
Good.
Yeah. They're not even looking at it. Now, capital gains tax is set to go higher. So we think we're going to be even more useful because federal is going from 20 to potentially 25, 26, or 28. Right? Federal is 20 right now. State of California, 13.3. Obamacare, 3.8. Depreciation recapture could be 3, 5, 10%. So yeah, we do anticipate that federal gains tax rate is going to go from 20 to 25 to 26 or 28, which is going to make it even more painful for clients who are selling. Therefore, the deferred sales trust is going to be more attractive, if that makes sense, Jeannie.
That sounds like a great conversation starter.
I really enjoy hearing you talk about the deferred sales trust, Brett. I've come to learn a lot about it just catching your videos on YouTube.
Thank you, Jeannie. That means a lot. And you can rate, review, subscribe, and share that with someone who could help. That would mean even more. And also, by the way, if anyone's seen value in this, if you could go to Google My Business, I'm going to drop a link here and show some love on anything you've learned today or any feedback you could give to people. That would be super, super helpful and help to spread the word. So I'm going to drop that here in a minute. But in the meantime, what other questions do we have?
Brett, I just wanted to mention that I was on a commercial call this morning with Keith Andrews. It's every Monday at 9 a.m. on Zoom. And so there's a lot of commercial brokers on there who would, it'd be great for them to be able to hear this presentation, because I don't know how many of them are actually catching your Friday webinar, either live or on Zoom.
Got it.
So that's Mondays at 9 a.m. on Zoom.
Okay, cool.
Keith Andrews.
Keith Andrews. Yeah, I do know Keith very well. I just saw him in Las Vegas for the EXP event. I'll be reaching out to Keith to see what he thinks about having me on as a guest. And maybe you could also drop a line to Keith and say, "Hey, Keith."
I did this morning.
Oh,
I can
cool.
send you the link to the Zoom call. It's the same link every Monday at 9 a.m. That's Pacific time.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, and then see if he wants to have me on as a guest speaker. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mentioned it to him. So, and I'll send you the link.
Okay.
But you'd have to actually reach out to him, because I did what I could. I mentioned it to him, but I know there are a lot of brokers on the call who really need to hear the presentation you just gave.
Perfect. I'll let him know you said that. I'll say, "Hey, talk to Jeannie. She said you got to get it on there." And so
yes.
I'll call him. Yeah, Keith is wonderful. I love Keith. So I just in the link there in the chat, I just dropped. If you click on that, let me know what happens. You might have to just go to Capital Gains Tax Solutions and then search.
It worked. I mean, I clicked on it and it worked for me.
Okay, and you can click on write a review there. Okay, cool. Other than that, are there any more questions that I can answer for anyone right now? Cool. Well, I want to thank you all again for attending, and I want to thank you for your review in advance. And I want to encourage anyone who's listening to this, if you want to learn more, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, where you get the free ebook. You can also register for the free mastermind every Friday. And you can start your deferred sales trust journey today for yourself and or your clients. I so appreciate everyone out there. We also have an extra special coaching if you're looking for a high level coaching. It's a high ticket sale. And it's for anyone who's wanting to really take this thing to the next level. You can go to experttaxsecrets.com. That's experttaxsecrets.com. And of course, check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, Capital Gains Tax Solutions for our podcast and everything else. And with that, I appreciate everybody. Thank you for your time, and I hope to meet you all in person one day and see you on the next mastermind. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett.